America is often seen as a land of opportunity, a place where hard work and determination can lead to a better life. Yet for over 500,000 people, the reality is far different. They wake up every morning without a roof over their heads, no safe place to sleep, and little hope for stability. Homelessness isn't new, but it's grown into a national crisis that touches every corner of this country. Cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Seattle have become symbols of the issue, with sprawling encampments that have become impossible to ignore. But homelessness isn't confined to these places. It's happening in small towns, rural communities, and suburbs. Today, we'll dive deep into the state of homelessness in America. We'll explore how we got here, why the problem has worsened in recent years, and what solutions exist to address this growing emergency. This isn't just a conversation about numbers or policies. It's a story about people, communities, and the urgent need for change. The current state of homelessness in America. Let's start with the numbers. On any given night, more than 580,000 people experience homelessness in the United States. That's nearly equivalent to the population of Milwaukee. But this number only scratches the surface. It doesn't account for the hidden homeless, those who are couch surfing, staying in motels, or living in unsafe and overcrowded conditions. Among those experiencing homelessness, nearly 30% are families with children. Over 35,000 are military veterans, men and women who once served this country. More than 40,000 are unaccompanied youth, often fleeing abusive homes or struggling with their sexual identity in unsupportive environments. The issue has become even more severe in recent years. In 2023 alone, several states reported increases in their homeless populations. California, home to over 30% of the nation's homeless, saw record numbers as skyrocketing housing costs pushed more people onto the streets. States like Oregon, New York, and Texas are facing similar challenges. The face of homelessness is changing. While many think of it as a problem limited to people on the streets, the reality is that tens of thousands of Americans are living in cars, motels, or temporary housing. These individuals often have jobs, but can't afford skyrocketing rent prices. This group, known as the working homeless, highlights a harsh truth. Even full-time employment isn't always enough to escape poverty. How did we get here? To understand the current crisis, we need to look at how we got here. Homelessness in America has deep roots. During the Great Depression, millions of Americans lost their homes, but large-scale government programs helped rebuild affordable housing and create a safety net. Fast forward to the 1980s, when drastic changes to federal housing policies set the stage for today's crisis. Budget cuts led to a significant reduction in affordable housing. Simultaneously, the process of deinstitutionalization, where large mental health facilities were closed, left many individuals with mental illnesses without proper care or housing. The 2008 housing crash only worsened things. Millions of families lost their homes, and for many, the recovery never came. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, which not only exposed but exacerbated inequalities in housing and healthcare. Millions of people faced job losses, evictions, and financial ruin, pushing more Americans into homelessness. The cost of living has soared, especially in urban areas. Today, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in major cities is over $1,500 per month, while the federal minimum wage has remained stagnant at $7.25 an hour since 2009. For many, the math simply doesn't add up. They are one medical bill, one car repair, or one missed paycheck away from homelessness. The challenges of addressing homelessness. Today, while homelessness has been a persistent issue for decades, addressing it today comes with unique challenges. One of the most significant barriers is the skyrocketing cost of housing. Across the country, cities have seen a dramatic rise in housing prices, with median rents increasing by over 30% in the last decade. In cities like San Francisco and New York, even middle-class families are struggling to stay housed. Another major challenge is the growing divide between political ideologies on how to address homelessness. Some argue for increased investment in affordable housing and social services, while others push for stricter laws that criminalize homelessness, such as anti-camping ordinances or bans on panhandling. These policies often displace homeless populations rather than solving the root problems. Mental health and addiction are also central to the crisis. An estimated 20% of people experiencing homelessness struggle with severe mental illness, and many others battle substance use disorders. Yet, mental health and addiction services remain underfunded and inaccessible in many areas, leaving thousands without the care they need to rebuild their lives. The shelter system, designed as a temporary safety net, is also under immense strain. In many cities, shelters are at full capacity every night, forcing people to sleep on the streets. And while shelters provide immediate relief, they don't address the long-term need for stable, permanent housing. The human cost of homelessness. Behind every statistic is a human story. Homelessness isn't just a lack of housing. It's a devastating experience that takes a toll on physical and mental health. People experiencing homelessness are at a significantly higher risk of chronic illnesses, exposure to violence, and premature death. For families, the impact is even more profound. Children without stable housing often miss school, struggle academically, and face higher rates of emotional and behavioral challenges. For elderly individuals, homelessness can mean living out their final years in fear and uncertainty, with little access to medical care or support. And then there's the stigma. Many people view homelessness as a personal failure rather than a systemic issue, leading to discrimination and exclusion. This stigma makes it even harder for people to find jobs, housing, or support to escape homelessness. Solutions that work. Despite the scale of the crisis, there are solutions that work. One of the most promising approaches is the Housing First model, which prioritizes providing permanent housing to individuals without requiring them to meet conditions like sobriety or employment first. Studies show that housing first not only helps people transition out of homelessness, but also saves money by reducing the need for emergency services. Affordable housing initiatives are also key. Cities like Minneapolis have begun eliminating single-family zoning laws to allow for more multi-family housing developments, increasing the supply of affordable units. Similarly, eviction prevention programs, which provide legal aid or financial assistance to tenants facing eviction, have proven effective at keeping people housed. At the grassroots level, nonprofits and community organizations play a vital role in providing immediate support, from meals to medical care. These groups often serve as lifelines for people in crisis, but they can't solve the problem alone. The path forward. Ending homelessness in America requires bold systemic change. It's not just about providing housing, it's about addressing the root causes, including income inequality, lack of mental health care, and systemic barriers that keep people trapped in poverty. Here's what needs to happen. 1. Increase funding for affordable housing. Local, state, and federal governments must invest in building and preserving affordable units. 2. Expand access to mental health care and addiction treatment. Comprehensive care must be available to those who need it, without long waiting lists or high costs. 3. Raise wages and strengthen worker protections. Ensuring that jobs pay a living wage is critical to preventing homelessness. 4th, reform zoning laws. Allowing for more diverse housing types can increase the supply of affordable homes in high-demand areas. What you can do. You don't have to wait for policymakers to act. There are ways to help right now. Here are a few steps you can take. Support local shelters and nonprofits by donating time, money, or resources. Advocate for affordable housing policies in your community. Educate others about the root causes of homelessness to combat stigma and misinformation. Small actions, when multiplied, can create significant change. Homelessness is one of America's most pressing crises, but it's not unsolvable. With compassion, commitment, and action, we can build a future where everyone has a safe, stable place to call home. Remember, behind every statistic is a person who deserves dignity, opportunity, and hope. Let's work together to make that vision a reality.